Hello, so this is Rob from the 30th of August 2022, and I'm just recording this, and I don't even know if this will end up in the final project that I have envisioned in my head. And something quite amazing has happened, I guess. I've realized that there is some opportunities of being able to do inclusive design within Loughborough. And I have also found that there is an MS society. And MS, I've been researching about it briefly. It really intrigues me in terms of how that works and how that affects people's lives. So I think that may be something that I pursue. Maybe, speaking to future Rob, maybe that's what my final year project is on. I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Maybe I did something entirely different. Hello, my name is Robert McKinna, and over the past 10 plus months I've been completing my final year design project at Loughborough University. But on top of all of that, I've been recording every step of the way because I want to take you on a journey, showing you both the highs and the lows of my project and how it has developed over the past 10 months. But most importantly, I want to show the world how using inclusive design can empower so many social minority groups, including those with MS. So sit back, relax, and join me on my journey through Project Phoenix. So when I started my final year project, the first thing that I needed to do whilst I was in the discovery phase was to understand what problem I was going to try and address. Was it helping those with multiple sclerosis? If it was that, what specific symptom was I going to focus upon? And this is where I started to begin my thinking for Project Phoenix around about September and October of 2022. It's currently the 5th of September 2022, and so I've been doing a bit more research to do with MS and trying to find out what are the main symptoms, what are the things that are affecting people the most. And it seems to be that fatigue is a really big thing, and tiredness, and also people then not being able to understand that people with MS can get really tired, and so being able to deal with that. And it also seems to be that there's something to do with spasticity, which is where that the muscles are tightening up, and that there's also weakness in mobility. Yeah, there are some areas that I'm just looking at the moment with research and seeing how can I possibly pursue those further. As we move into October, my final year studies actually started to begin, and my final year project was developing in its research as I was honing in more and more on multiple sclerosis, trying to define what symptom I could specifically design a product for. Hello everybody, so just to clarify, it is now the 3rd of October and I'm getting ready to start my final year, and I've been exploring MS a bit further and even speaking to one or two friends that have MS, and it's just this area around fatigue really seems to be an area of interest for me, and it seems to be something that's interesting that isn't just also for just with people with MS, but it also seems to be a global problem that a lot of people aren't addressing, and particularly in relation to sleep as well, that people aren't addressing very well. So I'm going to try and pursue this further and see where this takes me. So the date is the 4th of October and my studies have fully gone into full-on fire mode. And just as I was looking further, I've decided, so I'm very much focusing on MS, and as long as I get past the ethics stage, then that is where I'm going and focusing upon, and in particular with this area of fatigue, which I've been finding out through research, over 80% of people with MS actually struggle with fatigue. But it's not like the fatigue that we think of. So fatigue that we normally experience with people that don't have MS is that you come back from work and you're tired and you feel a bit like, ugh. Whilst the fatigue that people with MS experience can be really different and can be really hampering, because people with MS, their brain is working like 50% harder than other people's brains, and because they're working so hard, it means that then causes them to be more tired and to experience fatigue in an entirely different way. There's just so much that can be caused by fatigue. And this big thing as well that I've seen, especially with the American charities that I've been looking at with the research that they have done, there's quite a big correlation between as well of how heat is a really big factor for people that have MS and how that affects you with your fatigue. So one solution they have is they have cooling vests to try and keep you cool so it doesn't affect you as much in a sense. It's proving to be really interesting, and I think this is where I'm going to double down on and really focus upon how can I find solutions and possible products that could be integrated into MS and fatigue. So I'm going to continue my investigations and see what I come up with. So as I started to delve further into my secondary research, I started to realise that despite primary fatigue being a very key problem and an opportunity to design for with those that have MS, I started to realise that to design a product solution would be very difficult, as the majority of successful ways of dealing with primary fatigue didn't have any form of involvement of a product solution. And so I decided to focus more upon a symptom that was within primary fatigue, and that was focusing upon the symptom of heat sensitivity. So, little update, it is now 30th of October, it's just coming to the end of week 4 at university, and the project is going well, it's getting somewhere now, and yeah, the focus seems to really be upon heat sensitivity, and it's very much a case of that I'm just trying to focus upon, in my head as well, whether the solution that I create for heat sensitivity is something that is focused upon being something that either is beforehand, so it like predicts when heat sensitivity is going to affect you, or it's a managing solution, so a solution that's going to be able to manage the heat when it happens so that then you can manage your symptoms. And then the other thing that's going on in my head is trying to work out, is this something that goes on for the whole day, so I need to create a product that can just work throughout the whole day to help you, or is this something that happens in like a particular moment? And exercise seems to be one that keeps coming up a lot, or if you're just in a hot place. But yeah, it's interesting and we're getting somewhere, just trying to get into that primary research side, and hopefully soon you'll be able to start meeting some of the amazing people that I'm going to be interacting with through this documentary and through my final year project to make this final year project a success. I'm excited. Coming towards the end of week 5 of my studies so far with my final year project, and things are going pretty well. The project's going really interesting. I'm starting to see more and more, the more secondary research that I do is showing off to me the fact that there is a massive alignment between how heat affects somebody who has MS, and it's just so interesting. But yeah, had a crazy week, but looking forward to next week. It feels like the project is going in the right direction now. I've got more of a vision of where I can see it going. But yeah, trying to make sure that I'm sticking in the mindset of focus on the problem and don't focus on the end solution yet. As long as I do that, then hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll design something really special. Hello everybody, so I thought I would come in with another update. Week 6 is finished, I'm now in week 7 and nearly at the end of week 7. In the last week and a bit, I've spoken to a lecturer who was called George Havenif, who was so helpful in terms of explaining more about heat sensitivity and how core body temperature and our skin temperature can be related to heat sensitivity in MS. And that has then spurred me on to do loads of secondary research, which has helped me to realize that there is a clear correlation between the fact that for people who have heat sensitivity, who have MS, it's a case of that when your core body temperature goes up, or your skin temperature, and in some cases, some research studies suggest both as well, which I suspect is more likely, that's when the heat sensitivity affects you. And the two key things that mainly do this is from the environment, so when it's just really hot and really sunny, and also when you're doing exercise. Exercise 100% makes your core body temperature go up. And all of this research has made me then find out more about how we do what's called thermoregulation in the body. So you have a part in your brain which is called the hypothalamus, which controls thermoregulation and a multitude of other things within your body. So what happens is your core body temperature goes up. The peripheral nervous system has hot and cold sensors throughout your body. So those sensors will then sense that your core body temperature is going up, and they will then send a message to your hypothalamus to tell your hypothalamus that your core body temperature has gone up, so you need to react. Hypothalamus processes this, sends a message back through the central nervous system into your peripheral nervous system. That then can go to open up your sweat glands more, or to open up your blood vessels more, to send more blood towards your skin and away from your organs, so to decrease. The main issue with MS is the fact that for those who have MS, it's the central nervous system that is impaired. So it's in fact the messaging within that system that is impaired. So the thing that I'm investigating at the moment, is there a way that I can replicate thermoregulation through a product? A lot of the products that are out there at the moment don't regulate core body temperature. They purely just cool you, which, as I'm finding out, is not always the best thing. So going forward, I'm going to try and discover more about whether I can create a product within this space. But I'm super excited and everything seems to be going well, which is good. I'm keeping my fingers crossed and I'm really excited to see where things go. So we're at the end of week 9 now, literally close to midnight. And I thought I would mention as well that it's been interesting because this week also revealed that I may be looking into what would you do if we can't measure core temperature? Because my findings have shown that like the stuff that is out there is accurate, but it's not accurate enough really. And so I can either go down the route of proposing on using certain technologies to measure core temperature, or I can look at other things. So I think I may start exploring how I can look at using heart rate or using even running pace to dictate how much cooling happens to you. So yeah, that's something I'm definitely going to be exploring more. Oh, look at that. But yeah, this is, what even is the day? Today's Wednesday. Look at the ground. Last night, so this is like basically the first frost we've had for this year. It's -2. It's absolutely freezing. But yeah, week 10 is busy, but it's going okay. Times are a bit stressful before Christmas, but I have to say I do love Loughborough when it's like this. It's absolutely beautiful. And maybe, just maybe, this frost will turn to, well, maybe we'll get some snow. Fingers crossed. I like snow. Going forward from week 10, I continue to develop my sketches and my ideas, coming up with as many concepts as I could initially to understand what my product could look like in helping those with MS deal with heat sensitivity within the context of endurance exercise. But I knew ultimately to understand the problem the best, I needed to conduct some primary research and get some champion users involved within Project Phoenix. Cool. So yeah, with this one, so questions and answering lead gaps.
So my name is Balraj Student. I'm 22 years old and currently a final year student at Aston University, best uni. I have relapsed and remitting multiple sclerosis. Living with it is difficult. Something that I speak about a lot, I guess, with other people, but it's difficult to kind of explain what you're kind of going through.
My name is Irdeep Singh Sahi. I am a father of 2. I've got primary progressive multiple sclerosis.
When and how were you diagnosed with MS? How did that whole thing come about?
When I got MS, the symptoms first started when I was in 6th form. So what was going on was that I kept having, like I was saying about the eye problem as well, it kept drooping to one side or the other. Kept asking mates at that time, who was loving it. We was in 6th form, sitting on the same pod, having loads of jokes, laughs, everything, whatever it was. Had a really good friend and she was great. And I said to her, like, can you see, like, you know, when you're looking, is it maybe just because I was stressing about, you know, I don't know, final year of 6th form? I was like, when you're looking, is it kind of getting dizzy or double vision or whatever it is? So I thought, must be something wrong. But then I just left it for a bit. I thought, nah, it's probably, you know, one of them things, because if you Google it, then you just see that you probably got the maddest thing in the world, and you think, maybe probably not the best thing to do. But then went to the I went to the eye hospital in Birmingham, went there 3 times actually. First time I went, they checked the back of my eyes, said everything's fine. Second time I went, said everything's fine. The third time I went, said everything's fine as well. And it's great that we have healthcare, you know, in the UK. It's brilliant, really grateful for that. But every time I kept going, they just kept saying that nothing's wrong. So I'm like, I know something's wrong. So I ended up going to the Specsavers. The optician was great. He goes, look, I know something's wrong, after he tested my eyes. But that was only because he told me to do a field test. So when I did the field test, he said one side is completely fine, but the other's a bit scattered. He goes, I think you need to go for an MRI. I was like, oh, okay, maybe a bit weird in that. And at that stage, I started to say it was clinically isolated syndrome, which again, I didn't understand. And obviously being at that stage as well, first year, I was like, you just think like that, it doesn't matter. Like, you know what I mean? I'm still going to go do whatever I'm going to do. It was weird because I was living out at that time in the first year of university as well. And it's weird because I remember my mom and dad saying to me, like, you need to come home on this day in particular. And I thought, like, no, my parents are cool. They're like, you know, it's just like, you know, like, come whenever you want, you know, like whatever it is sort of thing. But on this day, like normally, like they're very, you know, like you have to be at home. So I was like, I mean, okay, cool, like that's not a problem, whatever. And on that day, took me down to the doctors. Saw a neurologist there, Dr. Douglas, good guy actually, and yeah, for a few weeks, parents obviously knew that I had MS. He told me, he goes, you got MS, and yeah, kind of just shut down from there, to be honest with you. I you know, when you just think like the game's over a bit, you just think like, my God, like I'm trying to put so much hustle into what I'm doing, into everything, even now.
So in terms of focusing on specific symptoms, how does heat sensitivity affect you in your day-to-day life, or affect you with even in particular exercise?
It's weird, it's like when I'm doing it, it's as if somebody's trying to put a coat over me, over just everything, me as a person, a coat over me. But with the heat sensitivity, it's like somebody just wants to keep on, like, you know, like how you can play games at times and, you know, you can just keep on pressing like 1 minute there, 1 minute, this sort of thing as well. It's like something's just like pressing into me with the heat. The best way I've explained it to friends at times is like, you know, when you have a sponge that you wash dishes with, it's like squeezing that but not feeling it, in a sense, if you know what I mean. So when you squeeze the sponge, you can feel yourself squeezing the sponge, let's say, but it's as if when I'm doing that, I don't feel the sponge.
How does heat sensitivity affect you? How has it affected you?
It's just when I get inflammation in my feet, my legs, I get the burning sensation, and that's heat. I can't regulate my body temperature.
Have you actually used any products in particular to deal with the heat sensitivity?
I use with the heat, with just fans. I use cooling spray to cool my feet down. Yeah. I don't really use the cooling spray anywhere else, like on my legs and stuff. I might, but my feet definitely, because the heels are burning. Everything's just burning. And the only way to immediately peppermint spray. That worked.
Wow. Speaking with Balraj and Iran, I was able to gain so many insights for my primary research, and honestly, they are the heroes of this project. Without them, I would not be able to make this project possible, and I would not be able to make it as amazing of a journey as it has been. And so I'm forever grateful and thankful for their involvement in this project. And I hope that also for those watching, that in listening to their experiences and their stories, that now you understand more of what it is like to live with MS and how it can have such a big impact on somebody's life.